The Audi R8 has always been a top contender in the ultimate daily drivable supercar category. Of course, the 911 Turbo S has always been quicker, but we all know which one looks and sounds better. With the introduction of the McLaren 570S and the 540C in Europe, that definitely brought a twist to the situation, made the competition stiffer. However, the McLaren is a good $25,000 more expensive than the base R8. Engine options have changed for this generation of the R8. No longer do you choose between a V8 or a V10, there's just a V10. You can choose the Audi R8 V10 or the V10 Plus. The Plus gives it extra horsepower and actually has a mode that makes it very, very similar to a Lamborghini Huracan. Different styling, a little less sharp, but basically around tracks and in a straight line, just as quick. This model, 5.2 liter V10, port and direct injection, so it's a little bit advanced from the LP560. However, it does post similar numbers, 540 horsepower and 398 pound-feet of torque. I will say, despite having 70 less horsepower than the R8 V10 Plus, you almost don't really feel it. This car is so damn fast that at no point did I wish it had more power. Oh my God, 0 to 60 happens in the low 3-second range, and it's made it to a brilliant transmission. 7-speed automatic S-tronic transmission that shifts as fast as your brain can decide to pull the left or the right paddle. It also has something that's unique to the R8 that the Huracan doesn't have, and that is a shift indicator light on the tachometer that's done so in a very tasteful way. When you approach the upper RPM ranges at full throttle, it appears it doesn't activate at partial load. You get green and then yellow flashing lights as you approach redline to aid in shifting. I like that a lot. Now, this car has different driving modes that is activated via a button called Drive Select on the steering wheel. Really easy to access. Let's click that. We'll put it back into comfort mode right now because we're riding over bumps and I'm talking to you. This R8 comes standard with magnetic ride suspension. In the US, you actually can't get the R8 V10 Plus with this magnetic ride suspension. What's nice about it is when you put it in comfort mode, it actually relaxes the suspension to make it more daily drivable. And as I'm driving this more and more, this is absolutely something you could drive 365 days a year, no problem. Obviously, in places with winter months and horrible climates, it's not ideal, but you still could put Pirelli Soto Zeros on the car and daily drive it and take it on something like, say, Snowball Rally. Then we have automatic mode that decides the suspension, the transmission, and engine settings all for you. Of course, we also have dynamic mode, which Audi is famous for, tightens up the steering, throttle response, and all that, also makes the exhaust louder. And then there's individual, where you can customize everything the way you want it to. I will say this, without the optional exhaust, which this does not have fitted, it's a little bit too quiet. First and foremost, the R8 is obviously a sports car. It needs that piercing exhaust note that is possible with the optional exhaust in the R8 V10 Plus that just isn't here in the normal one. However, spend a little bit of extra money, and of course, that's fixable. If you put the transmission into manual mode, it will not shift for you. So be careful if you're in dynamic mode, playing with the paddles, that you don't slam into the rev limiter. Another gripe I have with the R8 is the paddles. On the Huracan, they are so nice. They're large, they're made of metal, they're sturdy. It feels great, the action, when you pull the paddles. These, they're very plasticky. Of course, they literally are made of plastic, but they feel bendable and cheap. In a car that's well over $165,000, you want something a little bit higher quality than that. And I think because this is such a beautiful transmission, that if they had just spent a little more time on making better paddles, it would make the experience more enjoyable. But honestly, other than that, everything about the R8 comes together so well. Let's talk about the interior. The design is very different than the Huracan. We have these floating center scrolling knobs that have nice LED displays on it for the climate control as well as heated seats. I like that a lot. The dash is splayed out here. The seats are very comfortable. We've got nice soft leather that Audi is known for, red contrasted stitching. I like the way the doors look. We have Bang & Olufsen sound system. Overall, it's a really, really nice place to be. We don't have a center screen. Instead, the tachometer and speedo is a fully digital display that gives you everything you want. Audi calls it the virtual cockpit. It's customizable. You can see the tachometer and the speedo in different sizes. You can even make navigation full screen if you want. And it makes so much more sense having something like navigation directly in front of your line of sight, so you don't have to look to the side, which can be dangerous, especially in a car like this. Of course, you don't want to damage it. You're able to keep your eyes on the road and stay safe. Well, we're at a stoplight here, so really the only thing that makes sense, because we're the first one, is to floor it and see the acceleration once again. For science, of course, this isn't for fun. This is just testing the car. I get no enjoyment out of this. This is about to be freaking awesome. All right, I'm excited. Come on, green light. And it's green. So I can feel off the line, it's not quite as quick. It doesn't have that mashing you back into the seat like the higher horsepower variant does, but you are not ever going to say this is slow or needs more power, unless you're crazy and you want to throw twin turbos on it. Some more differences between the Plus and this. The gear ratios are actually wider on this model to make it better suited for cruising on the highway. 7th gear is taller, and, well, your top speed goes from 205 miles an hour in the Plus to 199. Boo-hoo, you can't hit 200 miles an hour in the Audi R8. You probably could on a downhill, though. We're not going to try that today, but actually don't try that at all. Never mind, forget what I said. We got some nice backfires from the exhaust in between shifts. Downshifts aren't quite as loud as I would like, but still. It sounds good. The old Audi R8 V10 was a little bit too muffled, too low sounding compared to the Gallardo. This sounds very similar to the Huracan. We've got Audi's dynamic steering equipped. That means that at slow speeds, it's lighter, and at high speeds, it's heavier. In general, that means that we lose a lot of feedback, and track drivers don't like it. They've done a good job, however. I like the way it feels, especially maneuvering in parking lots. I think it makes a lot of sense. If you're going for the R8 V10 Plus and you plan on tracking it, then maybe it doesn't make sense. But for this, absolutely. Exterior-wise, this really is something you have to see in person. It looks so sharp, more exotic looking than the previous generation. They still have the signature side blades, and it still looks very much like an Audi R8, but parked next to the old generation, it makes it look almost dated. Honestly, I've had an absolute blast driving the new R8 V10. I'm definitely going to get a V10 Plus to compare to the Huracan. That'll be a more fair comparison. Special thanks to Audi of Birmingham for making this video possible. Like always, please browse the channel and subscribe. I look forward to seeing you next video.